Okay, just so everyone knows, you're being recorded now for this session, for the question and answer portion of this. I also want to say one more thank you before I turn it over to Paul. As noted in the video, this effort was an enormous collaboration. It could not have happened without the participation of each one of the named partners on that. So that's really, really significant. While we're hosting this, we're certainly not saying that this was a Hartford Land Trust effort alone. Those representatives from the county here were instrumental, Aberdeen Proving Ground and the state as well. So thank you again to those partner organizations. So now I'll turn it over to Paul Magnus. And again, Kathy, please chime in as well to give us an update on the work happening behind the scenes for the park system.
Thank you, Kristen. I'll be fairly brief in my remarks. You can kind of see in my background here, the whole idea of Belle Vue Farm being the missing piece. And what we are working on putting together is a scope of services to do a master plan for the entire Oakington Peninsula Park system, which would include Swan Harbor Farm, Belle Vue Farm, Eleanor and Millard Tidings Park, the Mullins property, as well as Carlton Feldman Conservation Area. And each one of those properties come with their...
Hey, Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you try to speak up or get closer to your microphone? Thanks.
Sorry about that. Is that better? Excellent. So again, we're looking at the entire peninsula, Oakington Peninsula Park system. Each of the properties have their own restrictions, have their own, whether they be deed restrictions or ecological restrictions that come with them. So that'll obviously be part of the overall master plan process, where we identify kind of what we have, what's there. That allows us to then determine what we can do in terms of future development of the properties and the park system. One of the other things I wanted to point out as part of that is that we also have, the city of Havre de Grace has an existing easement from the end of Clark Road, which comes down by, I guess, the Smucker's warehouse, the Smucker's distribution area, that actually matches or comes over to the Swan Harbor Farm property. So ultimately, part of what this will allow for is the ability to have a networked trail system that will connect the Oakington Peninsula properties to downtown Havre de Grace as well. One of the things long range also that we're looking at is the possibility, I think that clearly, obviously, the peninsula lends itself very easily to a peninsula water trail system that could be incorporated at the yacht basin, come down to Swan Harbor Farms and work its way around the peninsula itself. So we'll be working again on the master plan process, and that'll be a very public process. It will be subject to several public meetings, input sessions, and things of that nature. And we anticipate that process is going to take a good 18 to 24 months, and that will set us up for then the future development again of the park system, the Oakington Peninsula Park system, over the next easily 10 to 15 plus years. And with that, I will turn it over to any questions or comments. Kathy, did I miss anything that you wanted to highlight?
The only thing that I just wanted to share was that everyone hears that Parks and Rec is in charge of this and overseeing this master plan process, and everyone gets very afraid that we're going to put some kind of giant sports complex and fields out there. And I want to stand here and assure you that barring some crazy something, which I can't even fathom what that would be, we are not looking to put sports fields out here. There's a lot of other benefits for this property, and that is not something that we see as a good use of this property.
The other thing that I'll add to both of your comments that is really not within any of our control on this, but is certainly happening behind the scenes, is that there is an effort afoot to have the Chesapeake designated as a national recreation area. This is a National Park Service designation. Anyone that's been to San Francisco may be familiar with how all of the disparate parks there have National Park Service branding, if you will. So that's Marin Headlands, Golden Gate Park, all of these sorts of places near woods. They don't actually touch one another. They're not like the large Yellowstone types of parks we're all familiar with. So that is what a national recreation area is. And there is support by our state senators and others. This would have to be a national designation. The Chesapeake Conservancy, which is a large nonprofit, has been leading the charge on this. And I certainly, from my conversations with them, they would see Belle Vue and Oakington Peninsula being a strong anchor property for that system, should that come to be. So that's something exciting that again is really outside of our control. Should that come to be, this would be an important component of that. I also just wanted to give Bridget, she joined, a quick chance to say something before we open it up to questions. Cardi, want to make any comments?
Sure, thank you, Kristen. Yes, and it's been a privilege to be a part of this recent effort, but we know it has gone back for so long. And I just want to give a shout out to Janet Gleisner, that's on the call as well. She's been a part of the Greenway and Harford County Planning, and she's been with the Greenway since the conception in '92. So 30 years going strong. So I know it has to be great for her to see this coming to fruition. So yeah, we're real excited to kind of see this whole trail system, 38 miles of trails kind of being pieced together. And again, we are working with Harford, with Havre de Grace. We're working with Vulcan around that trail, getting up to the Conowingo Dam and then back down on the Susquehanna County side. So it will be a whole 38-mile loop trail when complete. So this is a very important part of that. And we're also looking into currently the Susquehanna River crossing, which has always been a plan as well. So yeah, lots of exciting projects happening, lots of national efforts. You mentioned Chesapeake National Recreation Area effort. There's also the new designation of the 9/11 Memorial Trail. We have the Captain John Smith Chesapeake, as you mentioned in the video. We also have Star Spangled Banner, and we have Washington Rochambeau that we're currently working on as well. So lots of really awesome, exciting projects, a lot of really great regional and national partners that we're working with, to include Mason-Dixon Trail System, East Coast Greenway, and many others. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. And it's just so exciting. So looking forward to partnering with you guys, and looking forward to ribbon cuttings and public meetings and all the good stuff that's to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. And one more person I'll put on the spot, Todd Beezer from Aberdeen Proving Ground. Are you at liberty to say a hello and maybe explain what the Army Compatible Use Buffer Program is and why preservation of places like Belle Vue is important to APG?
Sure, I'll jump in, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody on the phone, because this is a great project. For us, it's conserving, protecting land outside of the installation from multiple forms of encroachment, whether it's development or protecting habitat so that species aren't forced onto the installation. And Belle Vue in particular is, right across the water from some of our test ranges. And it's impacted by noise that we generate. And we've been here since 1917, so a pretty long time. And if Belle Vue had been developed, probably would have been new landowners in the area not used to what we do on the installation, and it could have impacted our mission at the ranges that are relatively close, right across the water, with no natural buffers from the noise that we generate. So protecting this really protects a lot of the mission that we conduct on the installation. So again, just thank you to everybody that helped to get this across the finish line.
Thanks very much, Todd. So now we'll open it up for questions. We are manning the chat function, so you are welcome to type a question in. If you are comfortable using Zoom and you know how to unmute yourself, you are welcome to ask it personally. But now the floor is yours for all of the viewers. Who's going to go first?
Can you hear me?
Yep, Scott Kirby.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say there just seems to be a whole lot of possibilities here for this property. And one of the things with planning, sometimes you start going down a trail and you bypass a lot of things. So I would urge to get a lot of collaboration up front throw a lot of ideas out, and then you can kind of sort through it, where if you don't do that and you get too far down the road, good ideas can't be accommodated. So I just want to encourage Parks and Rec to do whatever they can to get a lot of these historical, cultural, environmental, recreational, all these kind of voices in the room.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Scott. And that's part of our approach to this, is kind of going in with, treating it as an open slate, sort of what's there. The only restriction kind of being, are there environmental restrictions about ideas, that would prevent us from doing certain things depending upon what comes out through that process.
Right, right.
All right, I'm going to ask Harry Dutcher's question first, and then Lee Grawl is next, and then Sarah. So Harry asked, what is the condition of the house and what is the plan for the house? I'll just say something quickly about the condition, and I'll leave it to Paul to talk about the plan. So the house is very old, as we said in our video. We did have numerous appraisers look at the house during the acquisition process, and they were quite pleased. They said for a house of that age, they considered it very structurally sound. That certainly doesn't mean that it doesn't need work right now, but it was in very good condition compared to other properties of a similar age. The house was built in two parts. What you saw as the brick portion on the video is the oldest portion of it, and the white section with the white siding, newer. But when I say newer, it's still quite old. So Paul, do you want to say about any future plans?
Also just comment on the condition of the house. I was there yesterday, actually, and again, it is, the good news is that they had, you had someone living in that house up until the time it was sold, so it was not left to not do normal, for the systems to sort of deteriorate. We have staff that works out in the Swan Harbor area that regularly, and when I say regularly, I mean probably at least once, if not twice a week, is checking on the house, making sure that there are things that aren't happening. We don't have pipes breaking or, infestations of mice or something like that. So we regularly are in the house. The plan for the house is to have a caretaker located in that house once we get some of the improvement, once we get some of the things up to speed in terms of some work that does need to be done on the house. And we're working with facility and operations on that. So we would have a caretaker in the house and what I'll call the short term. And then the long-term plan for the house is part of the master plan process. Kind of what is it that we, could it remain a caretaker house? Could it become an office, for the Peninsula Park system? That's part of that whole master plan process and discussion.
So Lee Grawl's next, and then we'll go to Sarah and Joan.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you for the opportunity. That was a great presentation, a really good video. I'm wondering if you would consider at some point reaching out to the Harford County Master Gardeners. I'm one of them, and I see B. Filburn is also on the call today. That might be an opportunity to partner in planning some of the not exactly landscaping, but perhaps doing some, putting in some native plants and native gardens and pollinator gardens that would be obviously, natural for this part of Harford County. The Harford County Master Gardeners just started doing some work down at the Maryland State Police Barracks. As a matter of fact, they reached out to us about 6 months ago to put in some pollinator gardens. So just wanted to plant that seed for future possibilities of partnering.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Plant that seed, good pun, Lee. I'll go next. So Sarah had a question. She said, do we have an estimated public opening date for Belle Vue?
No, we do not.
Okay. Joan asked, said, thank you. As a Haverty Grace resident, I'm very, very excited about this acquisition. We have such a wonderful environment, but it is difficult to find spaces to take long walks and enjoy the natural environment. I hope we have an extensive hiking and biking trails. Can you give us a sense of the timing of the planning process so we will know how to stay engaged? And also, would that information come from the Hartford Land Trust or the Parks Department? So I will just say that that should be the Parks Department. we're certainly a partner and a stakeholder, but that master planning process is being led by Parks and Rec. And Paul, just jump in if for anything else from that question.
What I would add to that is, as I said before, we anticipate that that process is going to take us a good 18 to 24 months to complete. It will be a very public process. If you have access to Facebook, as an example, we have a department Facebook page. Also, our Hartford County government has a page as well. We will be posting any public input meetings and things like that as part of that natural course of the planning process through those social media venues or social media avenues, as well as the traditional avenues of, county newsletters and things of that nature. The other piece is our main office number here is 638-3570. That's area code 410. That's the main, you're certainly, as we work our way through this process, welcome to contact our office and ask your questions. As again, as we move that whole piece forward.
And I'll also say that we will obviously share, because Hartford Land Trust has been such a huge partner in this, as well as the Susquehanna Heritage Greenway. We will be sharing those informational meetings so that they can help us get the word out too. So I think if you are in those circles, you will not be able to miss this information. That would be our hope.
And Joan, your comment about long walks, that is something that we hear from other residents. There are just wonderful, wonderful short walks in the county, but we don't have, the half day, really long walks. And I know that is one of the goals of this Greenway system, is so that we could have something not only for residents, but for people outside of the county that want to come and, spend their dollars and do some things here, that they can come for a longer walking experience. So that's definitely one of the goals. I'll go to Laura because I don't see any other hands up. They said, is Ashley a partner with you all? Just curious, since they are the last large landowner on the peninsula. So I can answer that they were not a formal partner during the acquisition process, but I would certainly consider them a stakeholder. They are a neighbor directly next to Belle Vue. So Paul, do you want to talk at all? I don't know if you have had any correspondence with them on the planning effort.
We've had some initial conversations with them. I mean, obviously, they're very interested in what happens out there as well, because they're a neighbor and a stakeholder with the peninsula. So certainly, they would be included again as part of the overall planning and development process.
And there is another private landowner to the north of Swan Harbor Farm up the coast. And so again, any neighbors, as well as those that are sort of more on the Swan Creek side, would certainly be getting information, and we would consider them stakeholders in it. But I would say that other large farm known as Old Bay Farm to the north of Swan Harbor Farm, that is a preserved property as well. It does not have public access, but that is really great. So at least from the water trail perspective, the whole waterfront area there is protected. Any other questions or comments? Bridget commented, just for everyone's benefit, for more information on the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway, since we've referenced that quite a few times. They do have a great website. It is upperbaytrails.com. And again, that's upperbaytrails.com. They also do have social media accounts as well. So I know that they'll be posting things about any updates on the trail system. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, we said we'd try to keep this brief to the lunch hour, so we will certainly do that. I just want to conclude by thanking you all for your participation and listening in, as well as for the speakers here today. As I noted, we will be posting that video live, and please do share it with your friends, anybody else that you know that would be interested. We will send a follow-up email to everyone that registered for this session with that link, as well as with this recording. And as Paul said, all of us are available. All of our contact information we will include. We certainly don't want this to be the end of the discussion. We are all absolutely over the moon about this acquisition effort. And so really excited to get input from everybody here. So I can sort of say this is only the beginning. There's a long road ahead of us. We always joke that the Protection of a property is really only the beginning. There's a lot to be done after that to plan for a property and to care for it. So certainly excited to see that unfold over the next few years. But thank you again, and it was great to see some faces, if even only virtually. So have a great rest of the day and everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.